Hey yo guys, it's time for the summer shoot-off game dose. So, this week's topic is the importance of the Four Horsemen in wrestling and their downfall. Well, let's just dive into this topic, baby. See, the Four Horsemen, you gotta understand, is the first gang to really get over. They're the first heel group of guys, really, that work together that got over with the fans. They eventually, over time, would get cheered. I mean, they're pretty much the perfect stable because they're built the right way. I mean, granted they had all the belts, which is kind of cool, but anyway. I mean, you have your great all-pro wrestler that can go all day, every day. You know, you have, which is Ric Flair. You have your guy that'll back up of your top guy, and he's also a hell of a wrestler. I mean, that'll be Arn Anderson. You have your ass who just, okay, you have your... Okay, Flair is the top guy that can go all day, every day. I mean, Anderson's your protege in the making. You have your old, wily veteran, Ole, and then you had your cocky sumbitch, Tully. I mean, that's what made them perfect. I mean, they also were important because, like, they worked so good together because they traveled together. They did most of the stuff together. They were with each other 305 days a year. Like, pretty much. Maybe 360 days a year, 5 days away from each other, but still. I mean, they were with each other all the time. I mean, another important thing with the Horsemen is the fact that they would work with people to get them over, too, to make the promotion succeed. I mean, come on, Flair would feud with Magnum TA, and then they'd, like, bring in people with them, and they'd bring in Dusty Rhodes to feud with Flair and other members of the Horsemen, and then they bring in the Legion of Doom to feud with the Anderson. I mean, come on, that's beautiful. I mean, hell, Tully and Arn had great matches with the Road Warriors. I mean, just showed how great they were in the ring together. Excuse me. And like another thing that was good with them was their promos. I mean, their promos were so good. Like, they just elevated the game and the rivalries. I mean, Flair is the man on the mic. But in my opinion, the best guy with promos for that faction was the elevation of Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson was the man on the mic. I mean, his promos are just amazing. It just make you think and go all the way. Like, it just puts the feud in perspective. I mean, any feud they had, they brought their gay game in promos. I mean, and going back to feuds, I mean, Flair can work with anyone. I mean, Flair would feud with Magnum TA, and then he'd go straight to feud with Dusty Rhodes, which was awesome. They were so important because they did some stuff that was innovative that we hadn't seen or never thought would happen. I mean, like when they attacked Dusty Rhodes at Crockett's place, or at the production studio, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, that was inventive. It was like the first time they took a camera outside of the ring to go do something. I mean, that had never been done before in wrestling. You know, it was one of the most violent beatdowns ever. I mean, this is when wrestling is starting to, you know, explode in there. I mean, great for it. It gives us a new element or surprise and stuff. Like, come on, the WWF wasn't doing stuff like that. That happened in like '86, and they were still doing stuff in the ring. They just did a promo, like an attack beat down there to set up a feud and stuff. I mean, it was just great. I mean, that was way before their time, and I mean, Tully hit a woman. That happened 20 years before, like, I've ever seen anyone get hit by a woman. I mean, the time someone got hit by next time a man hit a woman was Jake the Snake Roberts in '92. Tully nailed a woman in, like, '85, maybe. I'm not sure of my dates, to be accurate, but come on. Very inventive for their time. I mean, the Horsemen, they thought straight lines ahead. And, like, they would just keep putting these people over, which, you know, you gotta have. I mean, you gotta keep changing it up and mixing it up. I mean, hell, they even put Luger over after he face and went away from them. And then they would add people into their stable, too, that would be good for them. Like, when Ole left, they added Luger. Granted, he wasn't the best of wrestlers, which, you know, you're supposed to have as being a horseman. But still, I mean, it made Luger look credible because he was related with those guys. But I think after they brought in Wyndham was the man, because Wyndham is your perfect guy. He's got an intimidating look, and he's dope in the ring. I mean, he is, like, probably the most talented guy that ever stepped in that. One of the most talented, at least. I mean, come on. And, like, another thing with them is War Games. You can't not tell me you are not thinking of War Games and you don't think of the Four Horsemen. I mean, that was their chance to go in there and just get beat up people and then get beat up and do the right thing for the business. Where I don't know if they won many War Games. I can only think of one where it was the Dangerous Alliance, whatever, but they won, '91, but I mean, come on, War Games without the Horseman is weird. Like, you couldn't have had that concept without the Horseman going up against someone. Dusty Rhodes picking some people on his team. You couldn't go in there without it. I mean, War Games is the most inventive top idea ever. It's like all your top guys in one match. And I know the WWE is thinking about doing it again. I mean, great to see Flair in there again. But come on. And the final thing that was important for the Horseman in my mind, it was this. They got a hand sign. I mean, that is just so cool how, like, for the Horseman to get that. I mean, the fans just didn't even have to chant them. They just had to make a sign. And it made it identical with them. I mean, it was a symbol of excellence. I mean, you would do this and you would feel like you were a part of them, you know what I mean? Like when the NWO had their sign, for life, I would do it. I mean, it makes you feel a part of them, and like, you feel like you are a part of that family. You are either Tully or Arn or Ole or Wyndham or Flair. Come on. You think of that. Another thing I think that was great with them was having J.J. Dillon. Having that manager there was great because, like, they could do stuff in the ring. They could get away with stuff with objects because they had Dillon in there. Or, like, he was just great on the mic, too. I mean, come on, Dillon was great for them. But then again, there's their downfall. Back when Turner buys the NWO, they bring people in there who have no clue what they're doing. Like Jim Herd, who just pretty much puts people in the Horseman that don't even belong in the Horseman. Like Paul Roma goes in there. I mean, they think, hey, Paul Roma would be good in there. I mean, he's got a good look, and you know, Paul Roma really didn't even be credible anywhere. I mean, I remember him as a young stallion, and he didn't do anything there. His only real hot thing in wrestling was Power and Glory, and that was a job and tag team, really. I mean, I was surprised to see they won a match at SummerSlam 90, but geez. Like, they had people not knowing what they were doing. Just dictating the Horseman, which you can't have in this business. You can't have people who think they know what they're doing telling people like Arn and Rick Flair to what they're doing, okay? I mean, that doesn't work. I mean, one of the major downfalls is when the glue of the Horseman left. When they lost Arn and Tully when they came to the WWF, that was a big loss, because that pretty much left you with Flair and Wyndham. I believe, yeah, at the time, it was Flair and Wyndham, and Dillon was there. I mean, that's all that's left them with, really. So, they got screwed there, and, like, also the Horsemen got screwed back in '91 when Flair left. I mean, they lost their leader, so really, there was no point of the Horsemen. And then, like, once when Arn and Tully were over there, I mean, it was kind of good, because, you know, Flair was feuding with Steamboat. I mean, that was a good feud and all. It was good for the NWA, but still, no Horsemen. And then they would bring weird people, also, like I said. Like, they brought Paul Roma, and then they bring Hiro Matsuda in. I mean, Hiro is a good guy. He trained so many greats, like Hogan, etc., for example. But Hiro can't do anything for you. He couldn't go in the ring. He couldn't get an interview. It wasn't good. And they really tried to get him to replace J.J. Dillon, and you can't replace Dillon, a top talent like that. But, in my opinion, one of the worst things that led to the downfall of the Four Horsemen is Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan. When Hogan came in, you know, he thought pretty much he had to be number one. He had to be the number one guy in the promotion, hold the belt, and like beat Flair. So they screwed him back as soon as '94 comes. Then there's Bischoff, who's like, you know, the Horseman's dead. Horseman is from the 80s, just kill it. I mean, the NWO is now. So they pretty much just completely screwed Flair over there with that. I mean, they just pretty much tried to put him out. They just tried to destroy that whole faction, the history and legacy of that faction. And then they do imitations of Arn Anderson, who like had given his heart and soul for the NWA/WCW, and they just made a mockery of it, which I did not like. And one other thing I would say is probably the lack of marketing. I mean, if the NWA had someone like Vince McMahon guiding them with the Horsemen, I mean, there would be no WWE today. It'd still be NWA on your television set. Because if they had a great market of the Horsemen, I mean, it would have been unbelievable. Like, if you had Horseman maybe and Hogan, it would have gone a different way. But still, I mean, if you had someone like that, it would have been great. But anyway, that's Summer Shoot-Off Game 2 and ECW Hardcore. I think you'll find that's 2 for the White Boy because of the 4 Horsemen. Anyway, I'm out, guys. Peace.